Shields and swords, feel the wars, fighting my blood down to the core. Warriors from medieval age, fear the reign of night brigades. Crusades into the room, moving through the temples and tombs. You scared and place, prepare to face Professor Awesome and the minions of doom. 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 Professor Awesome and the minions of doom.
Those of you who are watching me, Professor Awesome, on YouTube today, you see a man descending into madness. And those of you who are listening to this on the podcast, just know that when you hear a voice like this is the voice of a man who's broken by the essays of his students. So today I'm going to enter into full rant regarding essay writing and the purpose of essay writing and what it's all about. Okay, so first of all, let's get something out of the way. Essays are a particular genre of writing, and a lot of the stuff I'm going to be telling you today is probably very different from what you were told by your high school English teacher, by the composition textbooks that you've gotten, by your university composition specialist. And right now, I can already hear some colleagues out there getting ready to send me angry emails. Save them, because I'm not really interested in your opinion on this subject. I've been reading these essays for decades now. My opinions are pretty set based on my own experiences. And the thing is, most composition textbooks are terrible. And frankly, most people who are teaching composition are terrible. Some are terrible because they're not specialists in it. Some are terrible because they are, and they learn from the same composition textbooks. Okay, you think, well, that's just your opinion. Well, let me ask you a question about any composition textbook, high school, university, that you have ever read. And here's my question. As you go through that textbook, they offer you sample essays. Now, when you were assigned to read a chapter of that textbook, and assuming you did, and you got to those sample essays, did you read the essays, or did you skip over them? Because when you started to look at them, your eyes glazed over because they were so boring and stupid. That's an example of the problem. The problem is they're promoting boring and stupid writing. But the solution to this is really to understand what the essay is about, what the purpose of an essay is. You don't even see essays really until you get into the 16th century. Why don't we see essays all the time before that? Well, we had non-fictional writing, but we had longer things like treatises that people would write. The essays, the short essay, only can come into existence when you start to have a greater literacy and the ability to sort of sit down and have paper as a resource that you can try writing on and you can throw away if it doesn't work. See, before that time you had things like treatises, and you can think of lots of treatises, anything from Sun Tzu's The Art of War to Aristotle's treatise on tragedy. You know, these sorts of things existed because it was a long, thought-out meditation on something. You know, I've considered this, I'm an expert on it, I'm going to write about it. But that's not what an essay is. That's not the purpose of an essay. The word essay itself, which is coined by Michel de Montaigne, the great essayist of the French essayist of the 16th century, it literally means a trial. That is to say, a test. Unlike a treatise where you're supposed to be an expert already, an essay, you're still testing out the ideas. And this, by the way, explains why the essay is the kind of the gold standard, currency of academic exchange, because you're testing out ideas that are not clear at this time. And in the process of writing the essay, you're supposed to be really thinking through these ideas. You're trying them out. And so, because of this, the first thing you need for an essay is a thesis, is an argument. It's the idea itself. And yes, I know, if you go onto almost any kind of essay writing a guide, they'll say, well, there's a compare and contrast essay, right? By the way, if they say compare and contrast, immediately just ignore everything else they say, because all contrasting is comparison. It will just be comparison. There is a comparison essay. There's these different modes of essay. There's a description essay. No. Those things are not actually essays, and they do not fulfill the actual function of an essay, which is to essay forth an idea, to try out an idea. That's really what an essay is supposed to be about. That's the only thing that makes an essay interesting, is trying out an idea. So what do? You start with the idea, and that's the thesis. And this idea has to be something that's worth trying out. So if your idea is so commonly held that any major thinker would agree with it, it's not a good idea. Just to be clear, if everybody agrees with it, why are you bothering to try out the idea? What is the purpose of this? I'll often get essays where the thesis will be something like, love is an important theme in literature. Really? Love is an important theme of literature. You've blown my mind. Love is an important theme of literature. Of course it's an important theme of literature. Do you know who agrees with that? Jesus. Do you know who else agrees with that? Hitler. Aristotle. Everybody would agree with that. It's not an idea worth trying out, because the idea is so painfully obvious, there's nothing to be said about it. As soon as you write that, your reader is like, what are you, an idiot? Is this the first time you realize this? Have you literally only read one book ever and you are shocked that there was some mention of love in it? And the problem is that essentially students have this idea of a form of an essay without realizing its purpose. The purpose is to try out an idea. But what about the research paper, where you learn about how to do citations and all this kind of thing? Yes, citations are important, but citations are not important for the reasons that they teach you in these books. They teach you in these books that the purpose of citations is so you can give credit where credit is due, so you don't get sued, or you don't fail for plagiarism. No, that's not the real purpose of it. All those things are definitely true. You should give credit to other people's ideas, but that's not why. The purpose of research is, I have an idea, but I don't want my idea to exist sort of by itself. I need to look at what other people have said about this idea. And I need to use the evidence of what they said and say, well, so-and-so says this, and I agree with that, but so-and-so says that, and I don't agree with them, and this is the reason I don't agree with them, and here's my evidence for this. Oh, and there's evidence for this and evidence for that. So what's the purpose of citing your sources? So that your reader, who hopefully is actually interested in your idea because you have an idea, they can then go to that original source and look at it and go like, they said that this idea was originally put forward by Francis Bacon. Let's go see what Francis Bacon had to say. I wonder what book it's in by Bacon. Oh, here's a citation. I can now go find it for myself and read the original source. So I'm also entering into the conversation about this idea which you're trying out. You're simply trying an idea. So right now we're in the middle of final exam period. And I hope that in the future, if you are already done writing your essays for your exams, that you'll take this advice with you into all of your future classes. The purpose of an essay is to try out an idea. If you're not trying an idea, you're not doing it right. Start with this idea, and then organize that in a particular argument to try it out, to convince your reader that what you said is real, that what you said is true, something that they otherwise wouldn't necessarily assume is true. That has been the Rant of a Madman by Professor Awesome.